Good morning, everyone. Sairam. Thank you for joining us today and tomorrow for this conference on Sanathana Dharma. For the first time, we have decided to hold this conference on this theme online. We usually are used to meeting each other at least once every 3 months or so. But thanks to this year's unique situation, the idea came up to do this digitally. And this has proven to be quite an opportunity, I must say. An opportunity because on the one hand, the organizers, we had the chance to reunite. We had the chance to do something together as a group. And where there is unity, there is divinity, as we all know. And on the other hand, it has proven an instrument or an excuse to be able to listen to eminent speakers, to be able to confer our time, our precious time, to something more valid rather than, maybe other habits that would have filled this space. This conference was open to one and all. It was advertised, publicized, so to speak, and spread all over to everyone and anyone, regardless of whether they have known Satya Sai Baba or not. With that in mind, probably there are people present who don't know what Sanatana Dharma is. And one of the objectives of this conference is exactly that. To bring the knowledge of what Sanatana Dharma is and to help realize that it has nothing to do with a religion. It has nothing to do with a school of thought, but it has something to do with our humanity. It has something to do with our divinity. So without much further ado, I would like to give way to the day's proceedings. We will be starting this morning session with prayers and also a bhajan session. And we will also have eminent speakers who will be shedding light on the topic, who will be giving us a very clear idea as to what Sanatana Dharma is about. A few technical details before we give way to the prayers. On today's platform, the attendees don't have the possibility of showing themselves via video because we are using the Zoom webinar platform. But where and when you need to speak up, you can raise your hand or you can write in the chat window. And if there are any questions or anything anybody wants to share, your microphone will be activated. As of now, you can see a few of us. You can see a few panelists. And the panelists are the coordinators of the youth in Region 3. The Master has divided the globe into 4 regions, Region 1, 2, 3, and 4, so as to create a network that is structured to spread out the Master's teachings for the benefit of all. So we represent here Region 3. And I'm just trying to remember if there's something I'm forgetting technically. Maybe for the moment not. If anything comes to mind by and by during the program, we will share them with you. Yes, we will start with the prayer session now. Thank you. ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् ॐ सा ईश्वराय विद्महि सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात् ॐ सा ईश्वराय विद्महि सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात् ॐ सा ईश्वराय विद्महि सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाचेभिर्वाचिनीवती दीनामभित्र्यवतुः गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति
शांति।
श्री गणेश विनायका,
श्री गणेश विनायका,
श्री गणेश विनायका,
श्री गणेश विनायका,
विघ्न विनाशक विनायका,
विघ्न विनाशक विनायका,
विघ्न विनाशक विनायका,
विघ्न विनाशक विनायका,
मंगलदायक विनायका,
मंगलदायक विनायका,
मंगलदायक विनायका,
मंगलदायक विनायका,
भवभयनाश विनायका,
भवभयनाश विनायका,
भवभयनाश विनायका,
भवभयनाश विनायका,
पर्तिपुरीश्वर विनायका,
पर्तिपुरीश्वर विनायका,
पर्तिपुरीश्वर विनायका,
पर्तिपुरीश्वर विनायका,
श्री गणेश विनायका,
श्री गणेश विनायका,
विघ्न विनाशक विनायका,
विघ्न विनाशक विनायका,
मंगलदायक विनायका,
मंगलदायक विनायका,
भवभयनाश विनायका,
भवभयनाश विनायका,
पर्तिपुरीश्वर विनायका,
पर्तिपुरीश्वर विनायका,
पर्तिपुरीश्वर विनायका,
पर्तिपुरीश्वर विनायका,
श्री गणेश विनायका। प्रातस्मरणं श्रीगुरुचरणं,
प्रातस्मरणं श्रीगुरुचरणं,
प्रातस्मरणं श्रीगुरुचरणं,
प्रातस्मरणं श्रीगुरुचरणं,
साईश चरणं
शरणं शरणं साईश चरणं
प्रातस्मरणं श्रीगुरुचरणं
प्रातस्मरणं श्रीगुरुचरणं
साईश चरणं श्रीगुरुचरणं
साईश चरणं श्रीगुरुचरणं
प्रातस्मरणं श्रीगुरुचरणं
प्रातस्मरणं श्रीगुरुचरणं
ब्रह्मानन्द प्रदायक चरणं
ब्रह्मानन्द प्रदायक चरणं
शरणं शरणं साईश चरणं
शरणं शरणं साईश चरणं
शरणं शरणं साईश चरणं
शरणं शरणं साईश चरणं
प्रातस्मरणं श्रीगुरुचरणम्
सिंहवाहिनी साई नारायणी सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं ब्रह्मा सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं ब्रह्मा
सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं ब्रह्मा
सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं ब्रह्मा
सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं
सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं ब्रह्मा सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं ब्रह्मा
सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं ब्रह्मा
सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं ब्रह्मा सत्यं ब्रह्मा
सत्यं ब्रह्मा
ज्ञानं ब्रह्मा ब्रह्मा अनन्तं ब्रह्मा सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं ब्रह्मा सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं ब्रह्मा सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं ब्रह्मा सत्यं ब्रह्मा ज्ञानं ब्रह्मा अनन्तं ब्रह्मा सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं 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 ब्रह्मा
Welcome again, Sairam everyone. We now have the eminent speaker, our first eminent speaker for today's session. For those present who don't know Shri B.N. Narasimhamurthy, I would like to give a short introduction. Since I can recall, since forever, at least for our generation, who have been with Sai Baba, since our childhood, since I can recall, Shri B.N. Narasimhamurthy was always present by Sai Baba's side. He has spent over 60 years with the Master physically. As of now, present, in all those years, he dedicated his entire life to taking care of the students in the Satya Sai institutions in Puttaparthi and then in Whitefield. As of now, he is I forget the technical post he holds, I apologize, but he is heading the educational trust, Sri Satya Sai Sevaloka Foundation and Trust. So without much further ado, I would like to share with all of you the speech that he has gracefully agreed to prepare for us on this occasion of this conference on Sanatana Dharma.
I offer my loving pranams at the lotus feet of Sadguru Sri Matsudan Sai, who today embodies in himself Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai.
Apologies. Can you see the screen that I'm sharing? Can you please confirm, panelists? We have a person who has raised their hand over here. Francesco?
Sì,
Hai alzato la mano?
no, ho chiesto se vedevamo.
Ok, scusa.
Sì, confermiamo.
Ti metto in muto. Can you see the screen, panelists? Can you please confirm via the chat window, please? I don't see you. Yes, okay, thank you.
I offer my loving pranams at the lotus feet of Sadguru Sri Matsudan Sai, who today embodies in himself Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba, and who is being surely recognized by the world as the spiritual heir to Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba. My loving greetings to all the brothers and sisters and boys and girls who have joined this webinar. At the outset, I would like to compliment the youth, Sai youth of Region 3, that is Europe, for organizing this webinar on Sanathana Dharma. Sanathana Dharma was relevant for all times, and it is relevant even today, and it is ever relevant. Because in Sanathana Dharma, you can find solutions to the quest of all individuals and problems of all communities or the problems of the whole world. After all, what is an individual looking for? Every individual looks for experiencing infinite joy, unbroken joy, and also aspires for immortal life. Sanatana Dharma, if practiced with sincerity of purpose, with Shraddha, can help an individual attain this. It can put an end to the sorrows of an individual once and for all. And looking to the communities and societies, whether it is a town or a state or a nation or the whole world. What are the problems of the world? What does the people in the world look for? It is an irony of history, and it is really a tragedy that we never had a time when even the basic material needs of all men and women and children were met in this world. There was no time. Basic material needs like food, clothing, shelter, education facilities, and medical facilities. These are the basic material needs of everybody. And it is really very strange that at no point of time, everyone born in this world, especially in modern history, ever had all these needs satisfied. There were always people who were left out. There were affluent people. There were also people who were starving. There were also people who were naked. There were also people who did not have a roof over their heads. There were also children who never had any opportunities for education. And there were people who were deprived of the basic medical facilities. See, that is one part. Sanathana Dharma can help humanity achieve this. What it means, Sanatana, if you practice Sanathana Dharma, the principles of Sanathana Dharma, it is possible to see that everybody born in this world will get their food, will get their clothing, shelter, education facilities, and also medical facilities. That is on one side. The other side is, definitely everybody wants to create a society, create a world where there is no suffering. But any world without suffering is just not possible because it is in the nature of life, it is in the nature of creation that suffering will be there. But what can be done is that we can see to it that man will not inflict suffering on another man. Man will not inflict suffering on other creatures. See, that is possible to achieve if the principles of Sanathana Dharma are practiced. Even this was never there. Even this was never there. Definitely, there cannot be any world without suffering. But a world where man will not inflict suffering on man is possible, but even that was never achieved. Looking at the kind of bloodshed, looking at the kind of conflicts, strifes, wars, battles, we can always find that more suffering was inflicted on man by man himself rather than any other natural causes. Therefore, Sanatana Dharma surely can solve all the problems of the world. Individuals can find true joy and fulfillment in their lives, and the world can be happy. Everybody can be happy, lead a life of purpose, and see that suffering is minimized in the world. That is possible. Before I take up the topic of Sanatana Dharma for an exploration, I would like to read out a message that Swami has given for this webinar. It's a very crisp message, but it sets the tone for my talk on Sanatana Dharma. I would like to read out the message. This is the message of Swami, which he has written down. Unity within and without is Sanatana Dharma. Unity within and without is Sanatana Dharma. Within is harmony of thought, word, and deed. and without is seeing everything as divine. My blessings to everyone. This is the message that Swami has given to the webinar, and Swami summarizes in a nutshell what exactly is Sanathana Dharma. Sanathana Dharma means unity, both inside and outside. What is unity inside? Unity inside means individuals achieving within themselves unity of thought, word, and deed. See, that is internal unity. And unity outside means looking at divinity everywhere, looking everybody as divine and looking everything as divine. That is the essence of Sanathana Dharma. I would like to first quote an European thinker, in fact, two European thinkers, one from France, another from Germany, who have said something very adorable about Sanathana Dharma. The first of them did not really mention Sanathana Dharma, the word Sanathana Dharma, but he meant it. The first is Romain Rolland, a French philosopher and writer. Many of you might know that he has written biographies of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and also Swami Vivekananda. In the biography of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he writes, I just quote that sentence, if there is a place on the face of the earth which is home for the highest thoughts of all living men and women, since the earliest times when man began the dream of existence, it is India, he says. It's very simple. If there is any place in the world which has been the native land, which is the home for the highest thoughts of all living men and women, it is India, he said. Definitely, when he talked about the highest thoughts of all men and women, he meant Sanatana Dharma only. But more explicitly, there was this German philosopher, Arthur Schopenhauer, who said, in this world, there is no study as beneficial and as elevating as the study of Upanishads. Study of Upanishads has been the solace of my life, and it also will be the solace of my death. This is what he said. He also added that sooner or later, Upanishads are going to become the faith of all of mankind. This is what he said. Here he is referring to Upanishads. You just imagine this. See, there are so many things that man can study in the world. Sciences, humanities, physical sciences, biological sciences, mathematical sciences, literature, sociology, politics, economics, philosophy. And he says, in the whole of the world, there is no study which is as beneficial and as elevating as the study of the Upanishads. See, he is born in Germany. In fact, it was during his time that for the first time, Vedic literature, especially Upanishads, were translated into English. Therefore, at some point of time, he said, he was born in 1788 and he passed away in 1860. He says, I am very fortunate to be born at a time when Indian scriptures are available in English translations. This is what he said. I am very fortunate that I was not born earlier when these scriptures were not available in English. He said. So when you talk about Upanishads are the founding texts of Sanatana Dharma. Many of you might already know that Upanishads form the zenith the climax of Vedic thought and Vedic philosophy. And you will be knowing that there are 4 Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharvana Veda. And then each of these Vedas are divided or classified into 4 aspects. The first is the Samhita, second is the Brahmana, third is the Aranyaka, and fourth is the Upanishad. When we say Upanishad is also referred to as the Vedanta, the highest thought and philosophy, the end of Veda. In fact, Vedanta means end of Veda. And the highest philosophy of the Veda is there in the Upanishads. And why Upanishads alone are the founding texts of Sanathana Dharma and not other texts and scriptures of Vedic literature is an important point. See, generally people think that Sanathana Dharma and Hinduism are one and the same. Even very learned people, scholars, even very religious people, they generally think Hinduism and Sanathana Dharma are one and the same. But the truth is, it is not so. It is Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba who pointed out the important difference between Sanathana Dharma and Hinduism. Because the devotees of Satya Sai Baba know that establishment of Sanathana Dharma, Baba announced, declared, that was the mission of the last phase of 16 years of his life. And he himself gave a blueprint of his life and mission. He divided into 6 phases of 16 years each, beginning with first 16 years Leela, the second 16 years Mahima, the third 16 years Upadesha, the fourth 16 years Vidya, the fifth Vaidya, and finally the sixth as establishment of Sanathana Dharma. He announced it. And I'm not going to talk about the earlier phases of his life. I will focus on only establishment of Sanathana Dharma. It so happened when we were in Rishikesh, Swami was discussing this establishment of Sanathana Dharma as the purpose of this phase of his mission, the last phase of his mission. Then there were some devotees from abroad, and one of them asked Swami that whether Swami is going to establish Hinduism all over the world. When he said establishment of Sanathana Dharma all over the world, is Swami going to establish Hinduism all over the world? Then Swami pointed out, Sanathana Dharma is not a religion. Hinduism is a religion. Hinduism is a religion which is practiced by a particular group of humanity, a particular section of humanity. Like, there are religions, Christianity is practiced by many people, Islam is practiced by many people, Buddhism is practiced by many people, so also other religions. So Hinduism is practiced only by a section of people, a group of people in the world, not by everybody. And Swami said, Sanatana Dharma is universal. And then he dilated on this topic, and that was the time when he asked me to write a book on Sanatana Dharma. Now that book is going to be published during Navaratri, Sanatana Dharma for Universal Welfare. See, this is the title of the book, in which Swami asked me to differentiate between Sanatana Dharma and Hinduism. In the first few chapters, that is the theme which is covered. How is Sanatana Dharma different from Hinduism? As I told you, Sanatana Dharma is not a religion, Hinduism is a religion. But then what is Sanatana Dharma? If you look into Oxford Dictionary, the meaning of Dharma, see, generally people think Dharma means religion, which is not correct. Even in Oxford Dictionary, the meaning that is given for the word Dharma is truth or law that affects the whole universe. See, that is what the meaning is given. The meaning of Dharma is not religion, what is given in the Oxford Dictionary, What is given is, it is truth or law which affects the whole universe. So it is applicable to the whole universe. That's what it means. Sanatana means eternal. Therefore, Sanathana Dharma means the eternal law, the supreme eternal law. And for example, like law of gravitation, though it was discovered by Newton in England, it does not belong to only Newton. It does not belong to only England. It encompasses the whole of the universe. The law of gravitation is applicable for the whole of the universe. Similarly, Sanatana Dharma is a law. Sanatana Dharma is the eternal law, the supreme eternal law, which applies to the whole universe. Therefore, it is universal. Whereas Hinduism is not universal. If you ask people whether you are practicing Hinduism, many people in the world would say, no, I don't practice Hinduism. I am practicing Christianity, I am practicing Islam, I am practicing Buddhism, I am practicing Zoroastrianism. They may say. But as far as if you understand Sanatana Dharma properly, it applies to everybody. See, that is the universality of Sanatana Dharma. Now, what is this supreme eternal law? What is Sanatana Dharma? As I already read out the message given by Swami, it is unity of everything. Divinity and unity of everything, that is Sanatana Dharma. What it means is, everything in the universe is divine. Everyone in the universe is divine. Every being in the universe is divine. And therefore, all are one. See, this is fundamentally what Sanatana Dharma means. And this has been very beautifully captured in two phrases, Sanskrit phrases by Sadguru Sri Madhusudan Sai during this one of his talks in Paravidya. In fact, he combined two statements of the Upanishads to sum up what is Sanatana Dharma, the essence of Sanatana Dharma, that is Aham Brahma, Sarvam Brahma. See, this actually is the essence of Sanatana Dharma. What does it mean? That Sarvam Brahma, everything is divine, or everything is God, everything is divinity on one side. When everything is divine, I cannot be anything else other than divine. Therefore, Sarvam Brahma, Aham Brahma. In fact, it is a combination of two great declarations in the Upanishads. The first is from the Chandogya Upanishad, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. In fact, first time when Sadguru Sri Madhusudan Sai spoke about it, in fact, he said, you meditate on these two great declarations in the Upanishads. He said that Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. That is, everything is Brahma, everything is God. The second is Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi is from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma is from Chandogya Upanishad. But what happened when some of our youngsters tried to practice? They found it difficult because they had not learned Sanskrit. Therefore, one of the young men asked Swami, is it Sarvam Kalu Idam Brahma? Swami said, then Swami wanted to simplify it, make it very simple so that everybody can easily chant, whether they have learned Sanskrit or not. Therefore, from the statement, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, Swami took out only Sarvam Brahma. And from the statement Aham Brahmasmi, that is I am God, I am Brahma, Swami took out Aham Brahma. Therefore, Sarvam Brahma, Aham Brahma is the essence of Sanatana Dharma. Is there any logic? Is there any scientific rationale behind these statements? See, it's very, very simple. See, anybody can understand, even a schoolboy or a schoolgirl can understand this. Because the scientists say that the universe was created first with a big bang. What it means is they envisage a time, some billions of years before, when the universe was not there. then only the cause was there. The cause of the universe was there. That cause of the universe, we call it Brahma, we call it God, we call it by many names. And then the Big Bang happened and the universe was created. That's what they say. But when you want to create something, there should be two things. There is somebody who creates it. It is called the instrumental cause. And the second is, there should be some material to make that. That is called the material cause. For example, suppose you want to make jewels. There should be a jeweler on one side who makes, or a goldsmith who makes these jewels. And on the other side, there is material that is gold. The two things should be there. Suppose a potter wants to make pots. The potter is the one who makes the pots, but the material that he uses is the clay. Suppose there is a carpenter who makes a table. The carpenter is the instrumental cause, and the material cause is naturally wood. Therefore, when God created the universe, the instrumental cause, the one who created, is the creator. You call him by any name. Call him or call it by any name. That is the instrumental cause. Then what was the material out of which he created this universe? See, that is the question. For a goldsmith, there is gold. For a potter, there is clay. For a carpenter, there is wood. But for God, what was the material? There was no material other than himself. Therefore, both the instrumental cause and the material cause are one and the same. Therefore, he made the universe out of himself. So naturally, therefore, everything is himself. See, that is actually the scientific rationale behind these statements. But these statements were made by the sages of the Upanishads when they experienced it. Then the simple question is, if everything is Brahma or everything is God, everything is divine, why is it that we don't experience it? Why is it that we don't feel that? The simple reason is the concept of the ignorance, the concept of ignorance or the concept of Maya or illusion comes there. The simple reason why we don't experience ourselves as divine and we don't experience others also as divine is simply because we believe, we experience that we are these bodies. Therefore, what is responsible for this ignorance is our body consciousness. If you just get rid of the body consciousness, you know that you are divine, and then you also know that this universe is not a combination of separate objects or separate beings, but it is all divine. Therefore, these sages of the Upanishads were the first to experience this. They were the first to experience the truth of Sanathana Dharma. They experienced their own divinity because they sacrificed everything and dedicated themselves in pursuit of truth. They gave up everything else. And then they pursued and went in quest of truth. And they found the truth within himself that I am divine. That is the truth they found out. And this is the highest truth which is there in the Upanishads. But if you look at Vedic literature, you can see the gradual evolution of man towards this highest experience. In fact, if you look at Vedic literature, there are 4 stages of evolution, spiritual evolution of man. The first thing is, he looked at nature, the natural forces, the thunder, the lightning, the rain, the sun, the moon, the wind, the fire, and he started worshipping them. This is a kind of deification of natural forces. He recognized all these natural forces are different gods and goddesses. See, that was the first stage. The second stage was, he evolved to find out that all these are the expressions of the one and the same God. There is only one God who expresses himself in all these forms. This is what he found out. Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. That's what he stated. Though all these are divine, all these are various devatas or gods and goddesses, they are all the forms and expressions of the one and the same divine principle, one and the same God. And in the third stage, man found out that God is not only outside, he is outside no doubt, but he is inside me also. He internalized God. That God is inside me also, not only outside. And finally, in the last stage only, he found out that he himself was that God whom he was searching for. See, these are the declarations of the Upanishads. They are called Mahavakyas. There are four great declarations from the four Vedas. Aham Brahmasmi is from the Vajrveda, from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. What it means is that I am divine, I am God, I am Brahma. From Chandogya, you have Tat Tvam Asi, that you are that. You are that Brahma, you are divine. Then we have from the Atharvana Veda, we have from the Mandukya Upanishad, I am Atma Brahma, that this individual himself is God. This individual soul, the Jivatma himself is Paramatma. See, this is what was stated in the Mandukya Upanishad. That is, I am Atma Brahma. And Rigveda says in the Aitareya Upanishad, Prajnanam Brahma. The God is nothing but consciousness. I am nothing but that consciousness. Therefore, it naturally leads to the statement Aham Brahmasmi. See, these are the statements, and this is how you find the man evolved spiritually. When we study Vedic literature, this is what we find. And they also said the other aspect of Sanatana Dharma, important principle of Sanatana Dharma is the supreme purpose of human life is to experience one's own divinity and experience the unity of whole creation. Divinity and unity of all creation, divinity and unity of all existence, that is the experience that any human being should get. Because animals, birds, beasts, they will never get this experience because they don't have this discrimination. See, that is why it is said, Swami also often tells us, Jantunam Narajanma Durlabham. It's so difficult to get the human birth. Why it is difficult? Only among the millions of beings which are there, only it is the human being, it's only man or woman who can experience the highest spiritual truth. That is the supreme goal of life. And that is why in the heart of every human being, there is always a hunger, there is always a thirst. What is that thirst? I want to experience infinite joy, infinite bliss. And secondly, I want to be immortal. Nobody wants to die. See, that is why spirituality was born. That is why religion was born. Because it is an internal quest. You take anybody, anywhere in the world, everybody aspires for this. Nobody wants to experience sorrow. Everybody wants to experience joy, that too unlimited joy, unbroken joy on one side. And nobody wants to die. Everybody wants to be immortal. These two quests in the human heart can be answered only by religion, only by spirituality. See, that is why it is said, man is incurably religious. That's the statement which is made. See, you go to any part of the world at any point of time, what has been found, whether excavation or anything, study, they had some kind of religion. Every part of the world, every community, anywhere in the world had some kind of religion. It is basically because nothing else can satisfy these two desires in the heart of man. I want to be infinitely happy. And secondly, I don't want to die. I want to be immortal. It is only the religion, it is only spirituality which can satisfy, give answers to these two quests in the heart of man. See, that is the supreme goal of human life. Then what is the best way to practice Sanathana Dharma? The first thing, naturally, is that I have to find out that I am divine. It is not intellectually finding out. See, all of us can quote. All of us can study all the Upanishads and quote all the Upanishads, but thereby we are not going to really experience the highest truth. We have to put in consistent effort to find out truth about ourselves. That is the path of sadhana. But in the world, as we live in the world, in society, how can we really practice Sanathana Dharma? Swami has given a very simple formula. Because everything is divine, love all, serve all. That is the best way to practice Sanatana Dharma. And you find this spiritual core as the basis of every religion. You take any religion, Sanatana Dharma is the basis of every religion, including Hinduism. Hinduism is a religion which came on the basis of Sanatana Dharma. So also Christianity, so also Buddhism, so also Islam, so also any religion, because Sanatana Dharma is a law which says that everything is divine. And you have to experience that you are divine. And that is the basis of any religion for that matter. The relationship between man and God, the spiritual core of every religion is this only. Of course, religion has other things. See, for example, the quest of the heart is answered by spirituality. That is Sanatana Dharma. And also, there is the head of man, thinking. Therefore, every religion has its own philosophy or theology. And similarly, for the hands, there are rituals in every religion. They are different. See, theology and philosophy are different. Rituals are different. But spirituality is one and the same. You look at Jesus Christ, you look at Krishna, you look at Rama, you look at Buddha, look at Zoroaster, look at Prophet Muhammad, whoever it is, all of them experience the highest bliss within themselves. You can see the paintings or pictures or photographs of some of these prophets, that they have closed their eyes and within they experience the highest bliss. See, that is what is Sanatana Dharma. It does not belong to only Hindus or Hinduism. It belongs to everybody because everything is divine. Therefore, the best way to practice Sanatana Dharma is to love all and serve all. And that is the basis on which we can achieve a world where there is nobody who is deprived of the basic material needs. And that is where we can imagine to have a world where man will not inflict suffering on man because he sees divinity everywhere. On this basis comes the very important concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The whole world is one family. Why is the whole world one family? Because everybody is divine. See, that is the basis. Then the next question that arises about Sanatana Dharma, and here we have to make out that Sanatana Dharma is synonymous with spirituality. See, that is what it is. What is Sanatana Dharma? It is spirituality. Spirituality of every religion is Sanatana Dharma. See, that is why you can think of a tree of religions. The roots are Sanatana Dharma. The branches which came out, Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, Christianity, Islam, Sikhism, all these are branches of the same tree. The roots are Sanatana Dharma. See, this is what we have to understand. But then the question arises, why there were so many wars in the name of religion? That is because of ignorance of man. Man did not understand religion properly. That is why you see the religious wars. In fact, today's youth, anywhere in the world, see, it was recently, research was done. Yes, in America, this research was done. Why youth are moving away from religious ideas? Why youth are not going to churches? This question was asked. The first reason was that youth found out that so much of blood has been shed in the name of religion. So many people have been killed in religious wars. Religions fight among themselves. Therefore, that is the first repellent which is taking the modern day youth from religion, that is because of misunderstanding of religion and definitely not because of religion itself. And then the next question is, if you practice Sanatana Dharma or spirituality, is it that you will go away from the normal workaday world? See, that is one question. Whether you have to give up your normal life in the world to pursue the spiritual path. Here I want to tell you the example of Mahatma Gandhi. All of us know how popular he was, not only in India and in many parts of the world, because of his spiritual strength. And he moved around the whole country like a storm actually. He inspired the Indian masses to fight for the freedom of their country. For the first time in the history of the world, he proposed a strategy of non-violence. This is not to be found anywhere in the world. By non-violent means you can fight and you can attain freedom. That's what he taught. At one such time, when people worshipped him as the Mahatma, there was a Western journalist who went to him and asked. He said, I want to know from you the essence of your life, the secret of your life in 3 words. This is what he asked. He was a Western journalist. And Mahatma Gandhi said, Tena tyaktena bunjita. These are the 3 words he said. No, I want 3 English words, he said. Because he didn't follow Sanskrit. Tena tyaktena bunjita. He didn't follow. He said, I want 3 English words. He said, then Gandhiji translated and said, renounce and enjoy. Renounce and enjoy. This Tena Tyaktena Bunjita is from the Ishavasya Upanishad. Ishavasya Upanishad is the second smallest Upanishad among the 10 major Upanishads. I didn't tell you about that. Among 108 Upanishads which are available today, 10 were selected by Adi Shankaracharya for writing his commentaries. Therefore, they are called major Upanishads. The 10 major Upanishads are Ishavasya Upanishad, Kena Upanishad, Kathopanishad, Prashnopanishad, Aitareya, Taittiriya Upanishad, Mundaka, Mandukya, Brihadaranyaka and Chandogya. These are the 10 major Upanishads. The smallest Upanishad is the Mandukya Upanishad with only 12 shlokas or 12 stanzas, 12 verses. And next smallest is 18 verses, that is the Ishavasya Upanishad. The biggest Upanishads are Chandogya and Brihadaranyaka. They have around 500 passages or 500 verses. Now this Tena Tyaktena Bunjita is from the first shloka, first verse of this Ishavasya Upanishad. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagathyam jagat Tena Tyaktena Bunjita magrudaha kasya svidhanam. See, that is the first shloka of the Ishavasya Upanishad. What does it say? The whole universe is pervaded by God, by divinity. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. Therefore, tena tyaktena bunjita. You enjoy life. You experience everything in life. There is nothing wrong. But magrudaha kasya svidhanam. Don't grab something which belongs to somebody else. It is not only human beings. See, this is what is actually today happening in the world. The human beings, because they are powerful, it is very sad to know that the 7 billion people in the world kill 2 billion animals every week for their food. Because they are helpless, they are helpless. But here when you say, Ma grudha kasya svidhanam, like every human being has his own or her own space, every animal, every insect, every beast, every bird has its own space. Don't intrude, don't invade. So that is what it exactly means. Therefore, the Ishavasya Upanishad says that man can enjoy, man can experience life, But you should not grab something which belongs to someone else or some other animal also. Leave and let live. See, that is the principle of this Ishavasya Upanishad. And it also says, Kurvan neveha karmani jijivishet shatam samaha. Every human being should aspire to live for 100 years. Based on this feeling that everything is God, don't grab what belongs to another. That is what it is. And also, it doesn't mean that a person who becomes spiritual, a person who practices Sanathana Dharma, who experiences the highest experience of Sanathana Dharma, he will move away from the world or he will become inactive. See, that kind of notion is there, but it is not correct. Because in Mundaka Upanishad, a question is asked. Who is the best among the knowers of God? And there it is said, Atmaratihi, Atmakrida, Kriyavan, Yesha Brahmavidam Varishtaha. What it means is, not that, when you become spiritual, you become inactive. You give up all work in the world. You enjoy within yourself the bliss of the self. Atmaratihi. Atmakrida means, Atmaratihi means when he closes his eyes, he enjoys the bliss within. When he opens his eyes, Atma Krida, he looks at everything as divine. And he involves himself in Kriyavan, means he works for the welfare of others. He works for the welfare of the world. All the time he is working. It doesn't mean that a spiritual person will become inactive, will be an example of inertia. But on the other side, if you look at the most active people and the greatest achievers in the world, name in any field, most of them, 99% of them were spiritual. In any field, industry, business, sports, or music, or literature, politics, science. See, they were all very spiritual people. They are the ones because they knew how to utilize all the powers of the mind. Only a spiritual person who knows the secret of oneself, he can utilize all the powers of the world. It is said that normal human beings throughout their life utilize only a very small percentage of the powers of their mind. Whereas a spiritual person, he will become more competent in the world, he will be able to achieve more things in the world because he knows the secret of the power that is hidden within himself. That is one aspect. Then the next question is, how do we realize this truth? See, that is the question. Sadguru Sri Madhusudan Sai very clearly has said that unity within and unity without is Sanathana Dharma. So unity within is the way we can experience the highest truth. What is this unity within? We have to achieve the oneness of thought, word and deed. Means internal purity is required. And also, it is not that anybody can achieve this kind of experience, attain this kind of experience. And it is also said, you have to have one pointed aspiration for experiencing. Nayamatma pravachanena labhyaha, na medeya, na bahuna shrutena, yame vesha runute tena labhyaha, tasyesha atma vivrunute tanum. Swami is the statement from the Mundaka Upanishad. What does it mean? It means by listening to a lecture, you cannot experience God or you cannot experience the highest spiritual state. By giving a lecture also you cannot experience. Not by intelligence. You have to aspire for that experience. You have to aspire for God to the exclusion of everything else in the world. So what it means, it is very simple. See, God has created this world and there are many things which are attractive for human beings. There are a lot of things which attract their attention. And naturally all human beings go after the pleasures of the world or the attainments in the world. They go after it. But what is certain is all that you attain in the world is only temporary. It can't be permanent. Therefore, someone who is intelligent, who is brilliant, and who is brave. Kaschid dhiraha, it is said. Kaschid dhiraha pratyagatmanam avakshat avrutta chakshuhu amrutatva michan. What does it mean? A hero among millions of people, he turns his mind and senses inward. Because he has found out that whatever he achieves outside in the world is only temporary. Initially it gives you happiness, later on it leads to sorrow. When he realizes this, naturally he focuses his mind towards God, he goes inwards and experiences. Therefore, what is required to experience God or experience the highest spiritual state is that kind of single-minded pursuit and nothing else, absolutely nothing else. You have to just say, I want God and God alone. Not say, you should want God and God alone. See, then you can experience God. See, this is the way one has to attain. What it means is that one has to achieve some kind of control over one's own mind and senses. He has to turn the outgoing senses and mind inward, and then he can experience. When you want it, you will get it. That is what Jesus Christ meant when he said, seek, you shall get it. Knock, the door shall be opened to you. Anybody who wants God will get God. See, that is what it meant. And then I want to come to how does Sanathana Dharma relate itself with the findings of the modern science. I want to quote Sir John Woodroffe, who is a British Orientalist, who said this: the examination of the Indian Vedantic doctrines shows that they are in tune with the most advanced scientific and philosophical thought of the West. He said that. He, after having studied the modern science and the principles of Vedanta, or the principles of Sanathana Dharma or the Upanishads, he said that they are in tune with the most advanced scientific and philosophical thought of the West. Especially with the advent of quantum mechanics, the theory of relativity, and the unified field theory, which was put forth by Albert Einstein, the scientists are slowly veering towards this point of view that consciousness is the basic stuff of the universe. And also, they are recognizing that supremely intelligent consciousness underlies matter at the in the subatomic world. See, you go into the atom, and they found that, in the words of a Nobel laureate, Dr. Walker, he said, protons show the signs of consciousness, he said. And also today, science, which was all the time studying only matter and then life, is now focusing on the study of consciousness. This consciousness studies has become a frontier area in the modern scientific world. Therefore, Sanatana Dharma is absolutely in tune with the findings of the modern science. That's what we can find. And finally, coming to how this Sanatana Dharma could be harnessed for the welfare of mankind. See, naturally, Sanatana Dharma or spirituality will have to be brought back into schools and colleges again. It so happened that somehow, by scientific temper, people meant that it is anti-spiritual and anti-religious. But now that the modern scientific inventions themselves, the modern discoveries of science themselves, are bringing physics and metaphysics together. Therefore, these are the times we will have to bring back spirituality into schools and colleges. And that is the way we can inculcate the spiritual and moral values in the children. As Nelson Mandela said, education is the greatest weapon which we can use to change the world. This is what he said. And Mahatma Gandhi said, if you want peace in the world, start with children, he said. And also somebody like Arnold Toynbee, the British historian, said long back, 30, 40, 60, 70 years ago, he said this, he made this statement. A chapter in history which had a Western beginning will have to have an Indian ending if it should not end in self-destruction of the human race. At this supremely dangerous moment in the history of the world, there is only one way of salvation for mankind. That is the Indian way. That's what he said. And that Indian way is nothing but the way of Sanathana Dharma, recognizing one's own divinity, recognizing divinity everywhere. And on this basis, you will have political ideals, you will have ideals of economics, you will have ideals of science, which will create one family in the whole world. The idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam can materialize only if the principles of spirituality, principles of Sanatana Dharma are practiced. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Sairam to you.
We will now have a quick 10-minute break, during which, to please our ears, we will have Rajesh Mandalin, who is an artist, an Indian artist, an expert in the. He's a mandolin player. We'd like to project one of his shows while we have this short break, and we will continue after the break to deliberate upon Sri Narasimha Murthy's talk. Thank you.
Namaste everyone. Sairam, good morning, good evening. Very, rather than saying happy and honored, I'm really blessed to be part of this wonderful initiative, Annapurna Trust, which provides food for so many children's. We would like to start this concert with as usual, we start on prayer song on Lord Ganesha. We have a wonderful set of musicians today. Amazing talent. We have Ala Prajuji on bass guitar. We have very talented Praveen Narayan on tabla. And young prodigy, Stephen Samuel Devisi. We lovingly call him Little Steve. We'll start this concert with Vatapi Ganapatim in the Ragam Hamsadvani.
Welcome back after this short break. Um, we had thought the next half-hour session could be dedicated to, deliberating upon Sri Narasimhamurthy's speech. I welcome anyone who have any questions or who want to share anything regarding the speech, regarding the topic, regarding what was said, to please use the function to, here on Zoom to raise their hand, and they'll be allowed to speak or to share. Okay, so I'll begin, but feel free during this half hour to speak up where and when the need arises. Yes? Listening to Murthy sir speak, especially the part where he shares with us the Master's message of unity within as well as without. Where could the difficulty lie? I ask myself. Where could the difficulty lie? What does it mean? Do we even know what it means, unity of thought, word, and deed? Over the next couple of days, today and tomorrow, we will have the opportunity to dwell upon both aspects, unity within as well as unity without. We will have, through our sessions that we have organized, we will have the opportunity to dwell upon what does it mean inwards, what does it mean by unity inside, unity of thought, word, and deed. So thinking on those lines, I would just like to give a short heads up before we actually go into those programs over the next 2 days. And at the end of this conference, you will know what I mean. I'd like to give a heads up as to what could be that factor that impedes us from having unity of thought, word, and deed. What could be that factor that differentiates what we think from what we say and from what we do? Murthy sir, he dwelled upon very briefly in his speech on the two aspects in man, right? The heart and the mind, as he said, the spiritual aspect and the religious aspect. In those terms, he was speaking about the heart and the mind. We here speak a lot about the heart and the mind, but in substance, what does it mean? What does it actually mean? One of them tends to unite or gives us the opportunity or the capability to unite and see one in all. The other is structured to do the opposite. So at the offset, if we recognize that the instrument that the mind is structured to divide, I think that's where the root lies. The root of any difficulty that may be born in uniting thought, word, and deed. I'm getting to my point. Please be patient with me one second. You see, the mind was structured to help us relate with this world. Help us relate with a world which is a world of multiple forms, multiple names. Not only physical forms and names, but also forms and names of relationships, forms and names of duties, forms and names of identifications. So, automatically, seeing that the mind has been created to give space to experiencing diversity, automatically what happens is the mind identifies with that diversity. The mind starts englobing the objects that we perceive. The mind starts identifying with the various roles we play. So, up to that point where we live our lives always and only through that instrument, it will be very difficult for us to be able to see that one uniting factor, which is the common thread between all the roles we play in life. Jumping from one role to the other, the father, the son, the mother, the daughter, the uncle, the grandson, the granddaughter, the teacher, the doctor, the student. We play an umpteen number of roles in our daily lives, but there is always one common factor, right, between all of these roles. This one common factor cannot be experienced through that instrument that is the mind. It cannot be. Because I repeat, the mind was made to perceive diversity. That one common factor between all of these roles or different clothes that we change into every time is us, is the I. And where, in which direction, and how could we potentially experience that I? As the Master has told us many times, God's voice is heard in silence. And if that I is that same God, if that I is that same divinity, it is the experience of that silence, first on the outside, then on the inside, which will give us a taste of what it means to perceive the world not filtered only by the mind, but also through the heart. So if there has to be unity of thought, word, and deed, the identifications have to take a second place. Unless and until we live in this world, we can't expect to not identify with our roles, but we can expect or we can learn how to observe how we behave. We can learn how to take a step back within ourselves and notice everything that happens within us when an exchange occurs on the outside. Only if that attention grows within us, that attention of taking a step back and being more attentive with everything that happens within us, observing that our thoughts, observing our response, observing the way we reply, observing the way we behave, only that gives the possibility to letting the thoughts and the words and the actions to take their course naturally. Unless and until there is our identification with the role, there is always a possibility of this unity not being present. The moment I decide not to identify with that role, automatically the thoughts, the words, and the deeds will go in the same direction. Because the only thing that impedes this from happening is that identification, is that false identity that happens through the mind and not the heart. I see here someone has raised their hand. Thomas, Yes, please feel free to talk, Thomas.
Okay, thanks, Victory. And thanks for everyone for a really good first session. And it actually touched on a topic that I wanted to ask about for quite a while. And that it kind of like touches on what you just discussed, Brother Victor. But essentially, it is about the tension between worldly interests and spiritual interests. And Brother Nassimumurti said something very interesting. He said that, you know, very spiritual people are very successful people, or a lot of the very successful people are spiritual people. So if that is the case, if we take Gandhi, for example, he probably spent a lot of time on his worldly interests. I mean, they were good interests, don't get me wrong, but he probably spent a lot of time on printing his magazines, you know, did all he had to do to do what he does. So my question would be, how can we bring that under one roof? Because if I want to be the best guitar player in the world, I have to practice a lot of guitar playing, which then detracts time from me taking care of my spiritual ambitions. So my question is, and perhaps this is an individual question, but I find it very difficult to reconcile that, and it would be great to get your input on it.
Thank you, Thomas. So this question is again born of habit. Let me explain. It's born of habit of the mind, or of thinking only a thought filtered only through the mind. Because the mind tends to separate. The mind cannot see unity. The heart can see unity. The mind will always separate, right? So over here also, automatically, it tends to separate the worldly life from the spiritual life. Because we have been so conditioned, we have been so used to seeing the two things as separate, while in reality, they're not separate at all. Because you see, this vision, this unity in thought, word, and deed, spirituality is dependent on the microcosm, not the macrocosm, on the inner world, not on the outer world, right? So it depends on everything that happens within you. Once that has been taken care of, once our attention is more present over there, automatically anything on the outside becomes spiritual. Anything. To think that to be spiritual means to live a certain life and to don, to dress up in orange clothing, or to shave one's head, or to go and live in a cave. Of course, I am giving extreme examples, but this is the idea, isn't it, Thomas? Also, isn't this also the idea? That the mind tends to imagine that if I have to be spiritual, I cannot be doing these things I was doing before. But it becomes easier. It becomes easier the moment the identification changes. The more, you know, the way Swami had put it very beautifully, he had put it in Rome. I always bring this up because it's touched me deeply, and please, others, feel free to share. As I will read now, a couple of people have written in the chat window. In Rome, he put it very, very practically. He says, just observe yourself. Observe everything that happens within you. Observe what you are doing in the present moment. Of course, when you're engaged in an activity, maybe that's not possible. But when you're doing something out of habit, where your 100% attention is not required, where is the mind? Let it observe. Observe what is going on. Because when you are observing what is going on, what does this imply? This implies that you're not identified with what is going on. You're identified with the observer of what is going on. And that in time, through one's own experience, it gives the possibility to thin down the identification with the person who is carrying out the action. It's a very, very subtle change within oneself. To really understand this, and it's difficult to put into words, difficult to share theoretically, because it's an extremely practical aspect of our existence. So the worldly life doesn't have to be separated from the spiritual life. At the root of all our actions is our intention. What is my intention in doing this action? That is the question to be made in every situation. Martha Carmona has written over here, is it possible to be aware of the real I while playing the guitar? And if you love playing the guitar, it is possible to be love itself while doing that. Maybe to be aware. Exactly. Awareness. How can you be aware? By observing not only what your senses are perceiving, but by being aware of what's happening behind that, what's happening within you. The thing is, we are so used to remaining on the level of perception. Just a few hours ago, this came to me. Sitting, people talk about, I want peace, I want peace, I want peace. But do we really know what peace is? Do we really know what peace is? Is it sitting quietly in nature and looking around? Yes, of course, that's a form of peace. But we spiritualists, for example, when we talk about peace, I don't think we really know what it means. And the moment we start, since we desire it so much, existence starts giving it to us in slow dosages, in small dosages, because ultimate peace, I think, is an energy which is too strong for us to sustain if you're not used to it. And so existence, the universe, God, call it what you want, starts giving it to us in small dosages, in small doses. Because otherwise, that's when we start realizing, oh, okay, this is what peace is about. And my mind is not allowing me to experience it because I still haven't cultivated the taste for it, right? I still haven't cultivated the taste for it. So little by little, patience and with perseverance and with that purity of intention, we can get a taste of what it means to experience one's heart and not one's mind. Sarah wanted to speak with us. Miss Sarah Pelican, yes. Please, Sarah, go ahead.
Hello, Sarah.
Sarah.
No, I don't want to speak. I just wanted to ask how to turn on the microphone and the video. Just this question.
Okay.
Nothing.
Right. Yeah. Okay. We are using a webinar platform today, so the videos are not, you can activate the videos, but tomorrow that'll be possible. Sarah.
Okay, Sarah, thank you.
So this was one of the aspects, right? The inner aspect. We spoke about what could potentially impede one from experiencing unity. But externally, on the practical aspect, and by practical, I mean physical, right? When it comes to the exchange with the world, that is what follows. That is what follows what happens on the inside. And as I said at the beginning, we will have an opportunity over the next couple of days, today and tomorrow, to dwell on these topics. On the one hand, on the instrument that, on the power that the mind has to materialize or to manifest in each of our lives what it contains. And what does the mind contain? Nothing else but thought, right? So we'll have an opportunity to dwell on that with during one of the sessions. And we'll also have an opportunity to talk about practical aspects through a quiz session we'll be having tomorrow. Anybody want to share?
Victory, maybe just to add for the beautiful explanation, what you gave on the interesting question, what Thomas has put in. Um, if you look at the speech of Narasimhamurthy sir, he says in the beginning that there was a big bang and then everything comes out of God. Even the creation and the creator both are the same. We need to increase our awareness. And how do we increase our awareness? If you see that we are all the divine beings, right? Came from the same source, and we came down for the human experience. And then what are the human experience, what we are going through here? If you want to learn to enjoy the divinity, let's say in playing guitar itself, right? And if you are only focusing on that, then you are doing the spiritual part of it. But if you involve your mind, your senses, oh, I want to get recognition, I want to beat a competitor, and I want to, these kind of the negative feelings, what comes out of these senses, once you are going through that, then comes the problem of the separation of, oh, is this a worldly or the spirituality? As Brother Victory very wonderfully said, there is no such difference as long as you feel that you're a divine being, came down for human experience, and then you are just doing only that. So as long as you have that feeling, that awareness, then there is no difference of doing a worldly activity or a spiritual activity. Both are same, and we are doing for getting that experience. Because up there, we're all having the knowledge, complete knowledge of everything. But we have to refine that knowledge into wisdom. And that is the reason why we are here. And that is the reason why we have to get that experience. And with the rules, of course. Swami always says, life is a game, play it, right? So there are rules. And one of the rules is separate the senses from the the divine experience. So if you involve your mind and the heart, you have to separate the mind and the heart. Once you do that, then whatever you do, whether you play guitar or go and work in the job, in the office, everything is one and the same if you do it. That is what is the Sanathana Dharma, what Narasimhamurthy sir was talking about. And we'll develop on this tomorrow even more.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to share before we move on to our next session?
Sairam, everyone. Thank you also for this wonderful webinar. Listening to Sri Narasimhamurthy's speech about Sanatana Dharma and how, in fact, Sanatana Dharma does not belong to one particular religion, but actually is the same core that exists in all religions. It brought to my mind personally that as a child, I actually, when I first started thinking about God and religions, I thought not one religion can own the truth or the copyrights of God. So apparently God has appeared in every different country and every different peoples in different languages and in different terms. So apparently there must be, this truth must be what is common throughout all religions. And, I'm not saying this for me personally, but in general, I believe as children, we know this. This truth is there with us. And I have read in a book by Swami that the souls that come to be incarnated through birth, through the human birth, they are actually coming from there, from very close to the divine. And they know this unity. They know that that they are Atma, which is in fact, and not that, and that this material world is actually role playing. It's nothing but a stage. But as we go to school, as we are brought up by our family, our parents, our relatives, friends, teachers, talk to us about this world and about this reality as reality, and they overlap with our clarity, with our inherent knowledge. They cover it, and we grow up in school, university, job, profession, and all these roles that we play later on. And all of them have piled up on this original pure knowledge that we had as children. So that's why I'm saying all this, is because in fact it is a process of unlearning and a process of remembering. I think it's that we have to learn what is Sanathana Dharma. In fact, it is a process of remembering what I knew as a child. What was it that was so clear to me when I was 10 years old? And I was looking at the grown-ups, and they were so entangled into their problems, their personalities, the fights. And I was thinking, this is so clear. What is the mistake and what should be the answer to that? To me, it was very clear, and I'm sure to most children, up to different ages probably, but all children come here quite aware, I believe, quite aware. That's why what Jesus was saying, like, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven unless you become like children. Mm-hmm. So that's my point, that it's mostly getting in touch to what we already are and what we already knew that we are in the beginning of our lives. Could be useful to try to remember our young self. That's my point. Sarah.
Thank you, Evangelos. Thank you. Tomorrow we will have ample time to get more interactive again. We'll allow one last person, because otherwise we will get delayed with the last session. We have Jacques who wants to talk with us. Yes, please go ahead.
Can you hear me, Victory?
Yes, Sairam. Yes, yes.
I am his wife. My name is Ria Kleindijk from the Netherlands.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for this opportunity we have to share this conference. It's very wonderful. Thank you for that. My question is, how does Sanathana Dharma is related to our karma? Can you say anything about that?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. How Sanatana Dharma is related to our karma. I'm sure during our last session, we will also have an opportunity to dwell on this through our last speaker. But in the meantime, I would like to share what comes to mind, unless somebody else wants to. Kiran, somebody wants to share?
Yeah, just a quickie before you can dwell on this. Maybe you can also gather your thoughts. How Sanatana Dharma is related to karma is a very interesting question. If you look at it, as I said, we are divine beings, came down for human experience. But if, like, for example, you are going from, your aim is go from A, like let's say from Amsterdam to Rome, that is your destination. So you get into your car and then you are driving. So that is your destiny. You have to keep driving. But on the way, one of your friend, let's say Kiran, calls up and say, he sees your car and say, Ria, I want to, please, can you please drop me? I'm stuck here. So you are bound by choosing a path of either you reach your destination or you deviate from that destination by doing some help to your friend, right? So when you are doing that, if you do it without any self, with completely selflessly, without any expectations, without anything, then you are not accumulating any karma. But if you do this with a feeling that okay, I am doing this, and then you have a intention that I'm going to get some, I'm doing some good karma. Okay, I'm doing some good help. So I'm going to get some kind of benefit out of this. So you're deviating from that path. So what is the Sanatana Dharma is saying is be selfless, desireless, and then you reach your destination. But if you engage with your senses, if you engage, get some selfishness or self-interest or all other things which arises from your senses, you are accumulating karma. That is the short answer I can give you.
Thank you, Kiran. I think
May
that,
I add something?
that does it. Yes, Taya, please.
Sairam,
Saira.
I want to add something little to that. It is said that God is a wish-fulfilling tree. So whatever we desire, whatever our intentions are, they are bound to happen. They have to happen. There is no other way. That is the law, right? So let's say I want something, I desire something, whether it is small or whether it is big, whether it is selfish or whether it is selfless. It is bound to happen. How does it happen? It waits for the right moment. It waits for the right circumstances to happen. And then it will happen, right? So when we talk about Sanathana Dharma, we are talking about something, our essence, our within, our truth, our connection, the oneness, right? When it comes from that space, there can be no attachments, there can be no expectations, there can be no selfishness. So what happens then is that you flow with that connection, you flow with that oneness, you become one with it. It is not you anymore who's actually performing the deeds. Something comes up, and as Swami says, you do it right and there. We have seen it so many times with Swami. We are seeing it with our Sadguru as well, aren't we? You flow with it. You know because you have that connection, you have that love. And from that moment on, it doesn't matter. The mind becomes an instrument. The mind becomes a tool to you. The mind, even if it wants to interfere, it becomes a sort of a bridge to that connectedness, to that oneness, isn't it? So Sanatana Dharma and karma then doesn't matter. You are not bound by your actions anymore. But let's say I decided to do something, right? And it's selfish. I want a car, let's say, okay? I want a mansion, let's say. I want a position, let's say. I want family and children and this and that, let's say, okay? They are bound to happen. They will happen, but whether they will happen in this life or the other life or the next life, we do not know that. The only way, and since we put this pile of list, right? Like Santa Claus, like giving a list to Santa Claus actually, saying, you know what, I want this and this and this, and I want that, and I want this, and then we make excuses, and then we say, I want this because if I reach this, then I will be like that, and then if I will attain this, whether it's spiritual or material, it doesn't matter, right? But they are bound to happen. So we put this pile of list, and then we are born, and then we are put more in one more list, and then we are born again, and born again, and born again, and born again. The moment we let go, the moment we realize this, and we start letting go, and we say, I don't want to be born again. I want to be one. I want to live as one. I want to live in love. I want to live as one. Then, as Evangelos put it, we start going back. Because we all know, if we go to our childhood, we all know what that means. Like he has explained it so beautifully. We already know that. So we go back. We go back. What do? We reduce our list. We don't desire anymore. We reduce our list. We clean our karma. We become one. So it doesn't matter anymore. I hope this answer helps. Taya.
Thank you, Taya. Thank you. I'd like to introduce our last speaker for the day, our second eminent speaker for the day. We will have 1 hour's time with Sylvie Sarda. For those of you who don't know, she's my mother. She's here with us. Mother came to Swami in the year 1976, if memory serves, in the 70s anyway. And thanks to that call, everything else followed. The rest was history, so to speak. And in the family, we have really lived that. This blessing to be in the avatar's fold, this blessing to be in touch with such deep wisdom and knowledge through her and through the master. Without much further ado, I would like to request her to please address all of us. Thank you. Francesco?
Ok, ci sono.
Ok, grazie. C'è la mamma?
Sì, sì, qui. Ma viene inquadrata?
Aspetta, adesso sì. Adesso verrà inquadrata. Dove sei? Adesso sì. Attiva il microfono per favore e fai partire anche il video.
Il video, dov'è che si fa qua? Ok. Ok.
Sairam to all. Thank you, Swami. Thank you. Thank you for letting us have that wonderful satsang with Murti sir, who has so much patience. He has patience. We don't need patience to listen to him. When he's asking us in conclusion, thank you for your patience. He has patience with us. How many years? He's been repeating from the depths of his heart. Thank you so much. Thank you, Swami, again for your blessings to all and one. Speaking about the Sanatana Dharma before, somebody mentioned karma, no? Then Taya explained very well that where there is detachment, nothing can touch anymore. Like Jesus on the cross, he didn't suffer, Swami said. We shouldn't cry because he didn't suffer. Then illusion and appearance is very tricky. We live in the tricks. Our senses are taking us around for days and days and years and lives. Swami said Sanatana Dharma is based on reincarnation. He said it very recently. He said, at the end of one of our lives, again, our conscience, our awareness will see everything and say, go back, do it again. You didn't pass. So to pass the exam, we need a lot of preparation, lots of detachment as well, not to waste time. We should lose the way to competition. We should relax. We should be at Swami's feet. Then he will hold our hand. Then we spoke about children. Yeah, the child is in us is no other than God himself. Who said God is a child? Innocence is divine. And I remember some children when we were working with human values exhibition years back. We asked children, who has created the world? They said, God. Like to say, what a question. It's so obvious to us. You're sure? Yes. Do you have any proof? We know. We feel, we know. So intuition, pure intuition is the way of the heart, to know things. This is for sure. This is the language of children. This is the language of the soul. So Sanathana Dharma is already in us. And Swami said recently again, you are already divine as we are. We are all divine as we are. There is nothing to reach, just to be. And Swami says very often, used to say, being is lost in becoming. Because we have desires in the future, we manipulate the present, we lose it. We base ourselves on a past which doesn't exist anymore. And tricks are playing again. So a sage said, he said, what is matter? It doesn't matter. What is the mind? Never mind. Just be. Swami is waiting for us to be what we are. He already knows all our potential. There is no doubt about it. But we have to believe it. And we need a guru to show us the way. In a human life, probably it's very, very rare to live what we are living. I remember, like Victory said, in 76, I was 27, 26, yeah. And when Swami's grace in Darshan made the most wonderful gift to my being, when in his eyes and in his look, Jesus was there waiting. He never left us. Then Swami left his body. It happened again that in the eyes of Sadhguru Madhusudan Sai, Swami was there. We say in French, we say, les yeux sont les fenêtres de l'âme. A baby, I have to translate, sorry. The eyes are the windows of our soul. We can contemplate the look of the Guru. Inside his eyes, we'll see ourselves. We don't have to talk, we don't have to ask, we don't have to question. Otherwise, we'll miss the point. A baby never forgets his mommy's look. He will be looking for it all his life, especially when he starts walking, when he has hesitation, he will look at his mommy, what to do. There is no need to talk, even before speaking, before having the access to the verb, we already talk, speak with our eyes to our mommy. For the Divine Mother, it's the same, because the Divine Mother has always her eyes on us. This is for sure. Then I was thinking, when somebody is suffering, when somebody cries, we start having tears in our eyes as well. So it's easy to understand we are one. Although sometimes we have a rebellion about that. We say God is one, it's fine. Yes, I agree that God is one. Very easy to believe, especially my God is one. But like Swami said recently, but when we say, my God is one, okay, fine. From this statement, there is more to understand. We want to possess. We want to be sure. We want to remove all doubts. It's a confession. So when we say, God is one, he is mine, okay, Swami says, you are mine, I am yours. But conditions are there as well. We should have a special, how do you say, intuition towards the truth inside. Swami will open all the doors. Swami will give us everything. He has always done it, always. We miss maybe sometimes the occasion to see it. Doesn't mean that he doesn't do it. Because love is everywhere. When somebody dies, we see the family suffering and we suffer. Although we didn't know this person who died, but we can't stand the pain of others. This is the greatness of human beings. I've been breeding animals, horses, for many years. And I saw that detachment. I was thinking, my God, they are so lucky. When one of them dies or get very sick, they don't even seem to realize it. They don't seem to suffer at all. But as human beings, we all have that great communion of heart. That is the meaning of human being. Be a human. This way, Sanathana Dharma has given us, in all religions, all philosophies, the possibility to realize that, to realize our nature. When Swami says, be happy, he's been telling us how millions of times when he was in Puttaparthi, be happy, be happy, equal to follow your nature, follow the way, your true nature. This is Sanathana Dharma. If you follow Sanathana Dharma, the universal law, you will never be unhappy. You can't be. Everything is there at hand. When the Guru is there telling us, in my personal case, under 3 forms, in one life, and maybe it's not over, because we're all waiting for the next. This I can assure that the grace is infinite. We don't even realize what we are having from Swami. Since many years, all of us. Now, what to do? There is nothing to do. Swami is looking at us as grown-ups already. He can see our divinity. He can see it. We can't see. When Jesus was curing the eyes of the blind, putting some clay on it, that person maybe couldn't see with the physical eyes, but could see with the eyes of the soul. This is the look we need. Let's pray that Swami gives us that. We all need it. We already are He, but we don't see it. And this is not a sin. This is only the play of the illusion. And this poor mind will sit one day, because the mind is really, as the definition of an enemy. But thanks to the mind, like Victory said, we can see the world We can maybe give the wrong interpretation for some time, but then we'll find our way through the mind. Mind you, we'll make it. Why the guru is so important? He's removing the darkness of ignorance. Why should we have the cheek to tell God what he has to do? How can we have this arrogance to say, you're this, you're not that? How can we do that? That moment, we are really wasting time. When love is there waiting to express in the heart of each human being. This way, this is what I wanted to tell you. It would be very nice if we could follow the conversation together, because one person, I would doubt that one alone can satisfy, because we all are one. So we should have that conversation. That's the way I see it. What do you think about that? Is it possible?
Absolutely, yes. If anybody has any questions for Sylvie or anything to share upon what she shared with us, please feel free to go ahead. Nobody? I have a question. Would it be safe to say that Sanatana Dharma has deepened your view of your relationship with Jesus?
Not with Jesus, because it was straight from the very small childhood. So everybody knows, like it was said before, that children are so pure. It's not with Jesus, because Jesus, Swami, Madhusudan Sai, Shirdi Sai, all the masters are one. Not difficult to understand, to feel that more than understand. There's nothing to understand intellectually. But for sure, it has eased the path, because in catechism, as a Christian, as a Catholic Christian, many things were not clear. Like even quite, how do you say, it was giving a lot of pain. I'll explain better. My parents were, at those days, it was not acceptable at all, for the church. My parents were divorced. And one day, a lady told me, a religious lady told me, your parents will have to go through the hell and the fire because they lied to God. I said, when did they lie to God? Because they promised in front of God that they will always stay together until death separate them. For me, it was devastating. I was very shocked. I told the lady, okay, I will go with them to hell. I won't let them go alone. They didn't do anything. But I really believed it, when she told me. So the relationship was not with Jesus to be settled, but with the kind of organization behind it. Those, this kind of preaching of advices are very painful for children, very painful. So thanks to Mother India, Bharat, the land of God, the only land who loves God truly and has all the solutions to speak to him. Naturally was probably the prayers, I don't know, Swami knows, the prayers when I was small for my parents took me there. This is the truth of it, because the organized teaching was very painful. I don't know if it's clear, if I explained it properly.
Yes, very clear. during, I mean, comparing to the previous years with Swami, because living with him in Parthi, living with him in Whitefield, um, and then compared to now, what's happening in his mission. What, according to you, are the key points, key differences between then and now, if there are any differences?
Differences I can't see. Differences in what?
Mission-wise, mission on this earth-wise, what changes do you see?
Okay, when I saw the video of Sadhguru Madhusudan Sai taking ascension and sitting on the throne, I said, Rama has come to Ayodhya, the heart of man. And he's settling there, he's settling himself there. And today, Moti Sir explained that. He said that Swami always said, I will install Sanathana Dharma in the world for everyone. And then Swami used to say, when I was in Shirdi, I was cooking in the kitchen. I didn't want children in my legs. Go and play outside, like a mother will do. Then, when the food is ready, set aside, he started giving it to everyone. No? The food means of the soul, the teachings. And now he's going to sit with us and partake. This is the banqueting, Swami said. So Madhusudan Sai, Prem Sai, no difference. Swami, Shirdi Sai Baba, Jesus, Ramakrishna, all the masters are only one. The mind likes to play differences, that's all, but the heart knows. Why people suffer and get angry? Because they are suppressing the heart. Expansion is the best. Contraction is very painful.
Okay. There is this beautiful thing you shared with quite a few of us who are present today, but not all have heard of this. If you are willing to share with us this dream that you had, because it really symbolizes what the Divine Mother is doing with all of us, and how and why the avatar takes advent on this earth. Of course, he has told us very clearly. He has said the avatar descends for the ascent of man. He has said this many times, right? And that divine principle, that divine creative principle, does so continuously through history. He has done this multiple times and continues doing it, in maybe not in the form of an avatar, but also in the form of various masters, right? And so I lost my question. I was getting to a point.
We are speaking about a dream, but which one? Because I'm not.
Yes, the dream where everybody was asleep, right? That's a beautiful dream.
Oh yes, it was wonderful. Yeah, this was in Puttaparthi. I was sleeping, and I had that dream. Swami told me it was not daytime. It was not. It was in between, like Sandhya time, in between day and night, or night and day. I don't know. I can't appreciate that. It was near a pond, wonderful pond, full of closed lotuses, like these lotuses flower were not open. He said, look now, look. And then he did with his fingers, he did snapping, like, like, and he said, look. And every time he was snapping in a direction, specific direction, the people came to appear, some human forms appeared for each lotus. And I show you exactly how it was. It was like that. They were all like this. And Swami would snap, and the people would do like this. One at a time, one at the proper time. So this was very enlightening on the fact that we should never judge any situation, because he has everything in his hand. And very often Swami used to tell us in Puttaparthi to realize a snap of the fingers is enough. It will be very fast and you don't know when. So this dream makes me think about all this and how much the individual is special to him. Each individual is so precious to him. All right, it was that.
Thank
It was
you.
lovely.
There is one very small extract from one of his discourses in the past 3 days, where he said, "Become convinced of your divinity. Convince yourself of that divinity." The conviction has to be so strong that anything that happens in the outside will not be able to unfaze it. Anything. And he said, and this is the point I was driving at actually. He says, um, let the mind continue saying what it wants to say. So basically, for me, it shed some light on this idea that, if Swami is asking us to, you know, become convinced of our divinity through a namasmana, through chanting of a mantra, through a sadhana, through seva, through anything, while that is happening, there shouldn't be place for anything else. I realized in time that this is what I had started expecting of myself. While in reality, while that happens, the mind continues its dialogue. If you think about it, the mind will continue its dialogue. So Swami basically said, you stick on to your conviction and let the mind keep saying what it wants to say. Don't give importance to it. So, I mean, the reason why I'm talking on these terms is to just, maybe, how do you say in English? Rassicurare, how do you say? And
Reassure.
reassure, thank you. Reassure that we can't expect the mind to not keep talking even while we are trying to turn direction, as Taya put it, right? Turning direction in elsewhere. Turning the direction towards desiring that which is permanent and not that which is impermanent. While it's happening, everything will continue out of habit because the mind cannot be shut, and the habit of the mind cannot be shut down in 1 second. So I think we can reassure ourselves that whatever goes on within us that seems to work against this is not important. It's not important. If we just hold on
Yeah.
to that realization that we have the possibility within us to even stop holding on. In the sense, we have the possibility within us to just be, as Mother said earlier, just be, right? Just to be, and automatically everything else will just fall off and we just come and go, come and go, come and go, come and go. As Martha Carmona asked before, right? She said, is it possible to be aware of the real I? And then Mother also puts, she said, Swami always said, be happy, be happy, be happy. So how do we know we are closer to that real I? If we feel happiness. Because if we feel that happiness, he is feeling it. And if he is feeling that happiness, it is the true happiness which derives from within, not the sensorial happiness, which is a different thing.
In fact, Swami says, love is my food. We have to feed him, not only with gestures from the depth of the heart. We have to feed because we are feeding our higher self. We are feeding ourselves because we are he. Although we don't realize it, but we love that higher self. And the guru is the image of that higher self. What Vedanta says, the moment the guru is needed, he will appear in your life. The moment he's not needed any longer, he will go. He doesn't need anything from us. We need everything from him. Guru is everything.
We have Martha here. She has written in the chat window, the more food I send him, so to speak, the more I receive. And in fact, this is exactly in line with what I want to share now. That I think the biggest illusion is that there is an I and there is a him. The biggest illusion is that. Because when Swami says, surrender everything to me, are we surrendering something to somebody else? If you think about it.
It won't be right.
We are
There is no
surrendering
reason.
something to somebody else. We are surrendering some. Swami wants us to surrender something to ourselves, the capital S.
Our true nature.
And that our self is within us. It's not separate from us. It's not something that we are giving up for somebody else. I think this is very important to realize. Because the more food I send him, the more I receive, Martha says. So the more food I am sending to myself. In other words, the more love I send to myself, right? The more I will receive.
Where from this love? Swami said also very interesting thing, used to say, universe is one, uni, versus the one again. So we start from one, we go back to one. That's all, the game is over.
Universe.
And there is no tragedy, there is no, we are all entitled to that destination. No tragedy.
Verse, it would mean, translated from Latin, would be towards. So universe, towards that oneness.
Yes, from one to one. We don't move. There is no train, no plane. We are there already, but we don't know it. He knows. We still are making he and I. It's a game of love. It's not a tragedy at all. He will hold our hand. He will take us there.
You know, when we talk in these terms, sometimes the question may arise, then what? Anger, suffering, pain, are they also God? Since Sanathana Dharma says that everything is God. And Swami had said once, he said, I will give you the answer to that. All of that which you define suffering is my shadow, he says. That is also divine. But why is it a shadow? Because it expresses itself through one of the dualities. It expresses itself through what is not light, but it still derives from that same divine principle.
It's a distorted vision of reality. It's not a sin.
Bhuvana had posed the question to Swami, if it is, if you say that not a blade of grass cannot move without God's will, how is it that God has allowed so much suffering? And the answer was, if you have total faith that even what you define as suffering is willed by that same divine principle, is that same divine principle, it will not be anymore a suffering for you.
Yeah.
So you see, the subjective approach is extremely important. The subjective approach has to be cleaned out. Once that is cleaned out, there will be a chance of having an objective approach. But it's very important. What is the subject one has to learn? Is the subject an identity? Is the subject filtered through an identification which is not true? This is for each and every one of us to find out. And that's
But
what this journey is about.
Yeah. The answer lies in our most inner nature, because Swami says, first of all, he says, be happy. We said before, how many times? Be happy, find a way to happiness. I will guide you. Okay. But if we don't believe in our higher self, if we don't believe in our guru, what can we do? We'll go on turning around and suffering. And Moti sir insisted a lot on the fact that human beings want happiness. They don't want to suffer. So we are prone to, we have the tendency to emphasize happiness, tragedies, horrible things, instead of contemplating what is beautiful in us, in others, in and out, like Swami says, inside and outward. Both things. To do that, we need a lot of health as well. Swami says health and education are the two pillars of human beings. There is no progress without those two possibilities, proper education and proper health. We need a lot of health to live a human life and to find ourselves. Health is very important for that. Swami used to say, health is important, be careful, take care of your health. How many times? And Swami spoke recently about the poison, like we see Shiva's throat, Lord Shiva's throat blue, because he's drinking the poison to save the world. And Swami said, Vishaya, this poison, what is this poison? Where does it come from? We are secreting it, like the snakes. And this poison comes out of us and it goes against us. Nobody wants it for us. So God is not responsible at all. Too easy to point a finger. Too easy to criticize God. It's like, could be like a cowardice. We need courage to change ourselves, our vision. God is not responsible of our vision at all. This way. And it's very interesting. Another thing, when the police wants to inquire on, say, a crime or something, what will the police do? Police will look for a witness. If you look for the witness, what do you find? The truth. Because the witness is not involved in the direct facts. What he did was only watching. So the witness is the best person to watch and to help the inquiry. Same for the self-inquiry. Look for the witness, Swami says. He's the one who knows better.
Does anybody have any questions? We are reaching the end of today's sessions. I'd like to give space to a last clarification, please. From a practical standpoint, living in the world, in the material world, could you give us any tips on how to make sure that our daily lives are lived through the principle of Sanatana Dharma? Could you please share with all of us, Mom?
Swami said recently again, he said, inner silence installed new is the meter. He didn't use that word expressly, but he said, it is the depths of your inner silence tells that you are on the way to realize. And Swami used to say, sages, even in the midst of a war, like thoughts are the weapons and all, won't be disturbed. They will keep their poise fully. He used to say samadhi, balance, full
They
balance.
become the eye of the storm.
Yeah. So we have in the world, to go back to the first concept of how to marry the world and the spirit, there is no difference, because the sages showed us that they made it being even on a battlefield. How much Arjuna concentrated when he heard Krishna? It was a mess. Everybody was shouting, probably. Even the horses were henning. So the world is like that. We shouldn't condemn the world, only our fragility, our lack of depth. So inner silence will help you measure your success. This is the only thing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you want to add, Mother, before we close?
If we can turn our lotus flower to the whole world so that Swami can irradiate for everyone the same happiness. That's all.
Thank you. Again, thank you. We will finish today's proceedings with the Arati.
Karan, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
ओम जय जगदीश हरि स्वामी सत्य साई हरि Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।
Thank you, everyone, for being with us today. Tomorrow we will be meeting at the same time at 11 a.m. Please keep in mind the change in the timings, right? We have the change of timing that's happening tonight. So please keep in mind the hour change. And we will meet tomorrow again at 11 a.m. Thank you. Sai Ram.
Thank you all. Thank you.